Think big, dream big, be big. I'm so excited. Hey guys, got people joining in. Think big. Someone talking to you for a second. As always, trying to drop in a nugget. You know, the funny thing about coming through something is that means that God's already put you in a position where things are about to change and you're about to actually do something great. It is amazing. Um, I'm so excited when I hear someone say they're coming through, because again I've been going through a lot, coming through a lot, changing, doing a lot of changing and growing. And when you start to grow, you really start to see who you truly are, because everything around you starts to open up, and you really start to focus on the bigger things, and start to see the power of how God is making things happen in your life. Guys, it is amazing. So again, I want to talk this morning about a great topic, and it really sets the foundation of how do you go from one position to another. And when you start to understand how other people play a role in your journey, you really start to appreciate the value of everyone around you. So this morning we got a great topic. This morning got a few people chiming in. I'm excited, about to get ready. So just sit back and let's kind of rock this out. But again, so let's see and hear about it. So y'all ready? We're gonna talk about OPM this morning. So sit back, give me a few minutes, let me get ready, and we're gonna do this. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yo, so look, I'm gonna tell you, it's amazing when you start talking about something great. I was doing meditation, and when you start doing meditation, some you can kind of get carried away. But anyway, it's on. We here. Got people joining in. Got some people hit me up on IG, so I'm tapping in, um, put this thing together. But again, this morning is gonna be a great topic. I got Sharon on. I know some other people joining right quick, but we're gonna do this morning. If you have not understood the power of how you grow, sometimes I always tell people, I have a saying. I always tell people, one thing you is about not just buying back the block, but it's owning it. I know we're coming up Juneteenth. We celebrated this weekend, giving shout out to all the people who came out that did something great and honored our legacy and our heritage of Juneteenth, and being able to walk through those gates and be and obtain that freedom is an amazing thing. And I'm gonna tell you one thing, when I talk about that, when I talk about freedom, I think the biggest thing for me in looking back and enjoying the journey has been the freedom of mindset. When you are able to overcome uh, oppression and a mindset, now you can do things that are different and you can free yourself. So again, a powerful weekend, powerful opportunity, and I'm excited. So look, we're gonna jump right in this morning. We're talking about something that I think is gonna give people a lot of opportunity and to do some big things. So just give it a few more seconds. We got a few people joining in, and I'm gonna kick this off. But this morning's gonna be about OPM. So first, I'm gonna go around. Sharon, how are you? You out there?
I am out here. Good morning.
How you feeling this morning? Oh, she just dropped out. It's always technology. Jamal, how you doing this morning?
What's up, boss? I'm good.
This dude sound pushing squares, man. Pushing square. I like that. Tell me more
Yeah.
about it.
Oh yeah. Anything that looks like a piece of dirt and is a square on a map, I'm gonna push it. So
Wow. I'm gonna
I
tell you
push
something.
land, squares and land. There we go.
I'm gonna tell you something. One thing I try to tell people, man, always look. If you love something, wake up excited about it every single day. Every day I wake up, man, I'm excited about changing lives, building communities, and getting this game, learning all the rules, and meeting some cool people. So every single day I'm doing it. So um Sharon, drop that technical difficulties. So how you doing this morning? How you feeling?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Can too.
Okay, I had to rejoin. I'm sorry. I have technical difficulties. I'm feeling well. Thank you for the invite. I'm not sure why I always have technical difficulties, but I'm here. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to hear about OPM.
Now, guess what, Siobhan? You know how this works. Whenever you're about to do something great, what happens? The devil always shows up. Why? He got the mental. He
Always.
got it. He knew you. He knew how great you were gonna be before you showed up, and he automatically starts setting up barriers. But what do we always talk about? We knock them down. We knock them down.
Yeah, they're gonna come. They're gonna be there. So, there's no point in complaining. Figure it out. And we always do.
Always do. So we gonna talk a little bit this morning because I want to try and get into this and share some knowledge because people always ask me, how do you um get into OPM or what does it look like and what does it really mean? Basically, the definition of it is money. And I'll tell you a little bit of my backdrop, and then I'll ask if anybody out there. I'm looking at some texts coming in, but I want to just talk about it from the standpoint of when I started using OPM, and then you guys can chime in and we can talk more about it. But I'll tell you, so in my journey with real estate, when I first got started, again, I tell everybody, and you haven't heard the story, I didn't get started in real estate because I wanted to make money. I got in real estate because I wanted to change lives and rebuild communities. I saw people living in marginalized housing. Then I saw people not valuing community or doing the right thing. So I said, instead of me sitting on the sideline and talking about it, I'd rather get in and do something about it. Again, always want to make an impact and a change. Think big, dream big, and start being big. That's kind of how I got started. But then I hit a brick wall. And a lot of you guys right now at that brick wall, you're sitting there, you're like, what do I do? This don't make sense. And when you hit that brick wall, your mind starts to go into a flutter, and you're like, how do I overcome this? Because at that time, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I think had you could own up to 10 properties, and I had just reached that number. And I think I know I think it was before I hit the number, but I was close to it. And I'm sitting like, what do I do now? How do I kind of get past this? Because I can't get any more traditional financing. I've ran out of my other methods. I talk about in the trainings. I talk about how to actually how you go from zero to at least 10. But now that's changed a little bit. And so when you're doing that, you actually are able to push through. So let me just kind of put it out there. When you hit that 10 number, now you're reaching that fact where you can't get any more traditional financing. But the win of it is now to try and figure out how to actually get the momentum. And how I did that was OPM, other people's money. But let's talk about it from the first, because I'm always talking about mindset first. What is the mindset? What does it take to get OPM? What does it take to have someone want to do business with you to give you their money out of their account to go be great? The first thing I gotta trust you. If I can't trust you and I don't have a relationship with you, I don't have a connection with you, I am not seeing the value that I'm gonna give something I've worked very hard for to you. That's a challenge. So your first thing is understand your mindset and being trustworthy, man. Just knowing it's that I can trust you to do what you say, do what you say, to say what you do. Sorry, wow, tongue twister. To say what you're gonna do and get it done. So you gotta already be doing something. People gotta see you moving. Your vibration has to be kind of high, and you got going back again to that mindset. You gotta have your why right. Why are you doing this? Why do you want my money? Why should I stop what I'm doing, take money that I could be investing, and pull it out and give it to you? Second, you gotta know where to find these people at. Now I'm not gonna dive too much into that because again, it's not complicated. It's like going to a barber shop. If you want a haircut, where do you go? To the barber shop. If you want to find money, where do you go? And they always the bank. It's gonna be the most places that you really don't think, and it's very common. And then one of the other things is when I say that is not just about the person, but it's also how many OPMs do you need? I'm gonna tell you, I've only had really one. All it takes is one. I've had multiple people that I could always go out and get money from, but if you had the right relationship, and you built a foundation, all it takes is one person believing in your dream enough that they're willing to invest in it and help it grow, and at the same time give a return. And that's the last part I want to talk about is don't expect OPM to be free. I want that to sink in for a second. Don't expect it to be free because it's not fair for someone to work hard for what they have and they got to give it to you for free. Um, you're going to take something, you're going to create, if you're trustworthy, you're a plan, you're going to take that OPM and you're going to basically um, utilize that to create value, create opportunity, create blessings. Why should it be free? I'll tell you quick. I'm not the free guy. I'm not the cheapest guy. I'm not the free guy. I'm not the guy that's gonna constantly. I'm gonna help, but it's not gonna be free. There's always a price to pay somewhere, and if it's not even, and let me say this to be clear, it doesn't always have to be a financial return. There's gonna be a return, time, effort, something. Because again, the whole thing is that they're giving you that money to leverage and stop their deals in order for you to go grow and do OPM. So again, OPM is other people's money. First thing I tell you is mindset, and the mindset comes with the fact of do they trust you, and the second thing is you got to be doing something that they can see and attach themselves to, and know that you're going to return their money. And then the third thing is really understanding where to find those people at. Like I said, if you want a haircut, go to the barber shop. If you want money, you might not go to the bank. So these people, you're not going to find them in the bank. You might find them around banks, but not at the bank. And then the last and final thing is you've got to have your why and what you're going to do with it. So those are kind of four key things. But we'll dive a little bit more deeper into it, and I'm gonna start talking a little more OPM. But Sharon, have you ever used OPM?
I have for funding my real estate.
How does that make? How does tell me? So let's talk about the first part of that. So tell me when you use some other money, did they trust you?
They trusted me enough to require a contract.
Wow.
Um,
Stop for a
you
second.
know,
Hold on. She said
okay.
that's powerful. She said to keep that, and I didn't even add it in there because that's a requirement. It's a contract.
All right. Yeah. A promissory note.
So they gave you a promissory note, and just because they liked you, and they gave you they just because someone liked you, that don't mean that they're not gonna give you a contract. So they gave you a contract, and they gave
Right.
you, and that's that commitment, right?
Yeah. It was the the note that said I would pay them back and the terms that I would pay them back under. And if I didn't, the consequences of not paying the money back.
Wow. Let me stop for a second and let me break something down for you. So someone has an investment, and I'm gonna tell you the power of OPM, the real true power. If you're looking at if you at a point where you can't grow and you've done traditional financing and now you're trying to figure out how to get to the next level and you need OPM, here's something powerful. Think about it like this. So you're going out and you've got some cash and you've got cash you can put aside, um, and you're going to buy this property for $100,000. You can do it today. There are properties out there for 100,000. People say they're not, but I promise you, we'll talk about another chapter. I'll show you how to go find the ones that are out there that are right at 100 and under. But it may not be exactly what you want, but I promise you they're out there. So imagine if you have easy numbers, 100, you had a house with about 100,000, and you went to someone and they gave you a loan for not the 100, because when you got to fix it up, they don't need to try and ask what you need, ask what you want, which is a little bit more to be able to get the job done. So you ask for 150,000, and you're gonna put that 130 into it, and then you got a $20 gap for errors, emissions, and payback. I'm not gonna tell you all the secrets, but the payback is important. So now you got that 150,000. You got bought the house for 100, and now you're actually got the money to fix it up. You start fixing up. You're hiring the guys. You're creating the blessing because now creating the blessing, you create some jobs, and you're out here fixing the property up. Now you turn around and that property, after you fix it up, you got to renovate it. You're gonna hold it. In my world, if you decide to flip it or just find the value of it, now that house is not worth 100. It's not worth 100 anymore. That house now, because you fixed it up, you added another bathroom to it, you made it a blessing. Like I said with my portfolio, one of the key things that I never put someone in the house I would let my grandma live in. So now you got a beautiful house that you put your grandma in, and that house is now worth 200, 300, let's say 250. So now you up $100,000 off of someone else's money. And you mean to tell me that you don't owe them anything? You don't think that they deserved a return on their money? Because here's the
Of
funny thing:
course.
what if they had taken that same 100,000, not 100,000 that they gave you, 150 that they gave you, and went and bought their asset and did the same thing and didn't say, you know what, I trust you enough, I'll let you do this, and you make some money and I make some money and I go win. Because I guarantee the person who's lending you the money is doing something else, and your return now just adds to what they're doing, but at the same time they're able to win. So the first thing you talked about again, they gotta like you. So surrounded, they liked you, and then they did what? Gave you a contract. Now, how did that make you feel when someone likes you, give you a contract?
Of course, I felt like $1 million on top of the world.
Now,
It was a
some
little scary though. It's a lot of money that you commit to pay back, but when your intention is to do that, it's no problem. You're feeling pretty good about it. I have an asset.
now she said something that another thing that's key, and is the word scary. I tell people you grow out of your out of uncomfortability. When you want to see your biggest growth spurt, look at when you don't feel comfortable. Being comfortable is when you're sitting there and you're not doing anything. You're being ordinary. I told my son this weekend we were talking about June 19th and some things about where we are, what we're doing. I said, I don't expect you to be ordinary. I expect you to be extraordinary because an ordinary person can do what you've already done. But I expect you to be ordinary. Now, whether or not you live up to that, that's on you. But I expect you to be extraordinary because ordinary is what you already have done. And so when you're doing OPM, the key thing of it is they're not asking you to be an ordinary person because an ordinary person wouldn't be looking for OPM, wouldn't be coming to them and say, I have an opportunity that I want to change someone's life, I want to change someone else's life, and I want to be able to create value, and I want to give you a return. So you're taking something from nothing, you're taking nothing, turning it into something, and then being blessed enough to where now you're going to not only benefit yourself, but you're also going to give a return. That's extraordinary, and I think that's powerful. But the key thing is the fear part. And if you want to move and grow in life, get uncomfortable. Be in places where you're constantly in a position where you've got to grow here, the mindset, and you got to your reality starts to expand, and that's a powerful place to be. I'm gonna jump around, Jamal. So you heard they gotta like you first. And just because they like you, they got to give you a contract. And I know this the land dude over here. It's that dude that, like you said, I push squares. You push that land. So let me ask you a question. So with that said, you know, have you ever used OPM, and how does it make you feel?
Well, first of all, the answer to that is no. I really haven't. I haven't used OPM. Not in the sense of real estate. Now, of course, family and friends. Oh, let me borrow 1,000 or 10,000, and I'll give you back in return. I do believe when you do grab some money or use somebody's money, they can be doing something else with their money, besides giving it to you. So you do owe them a return.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful. Like he said, so I'm a key on something he said too. Again, you can never count out because I haven't talked about I haven't gotten to the part about where you find OPM, and again, I'm doing a whole training on the details of OPM because again, it's I tell them I tell anybody who I mentor, real estate is psychology, and you have to learn psychology, and psychology is amazing when you're able to apply it in a positive way and learn how to deal with people and make sure that again it's that trust factor. That's the main part of that first factor. But I'm gonna tell you more a little bit about in a few minutes on the type of OPMs there are, and then also where to kind of go find it. So I'm gonna drop that nugget on you in a few minutes because why? We're here on Fireside Chat, and this is what we do. So we talk about a topic, and we give information. So Big D, I see you out there. You out there, D?
Oh yeah, man. Top of the morning.
Good morning, D. Look, so tell me, how do you feel about OPM? You heard about three stages of it as far as the mindset, people liking you, and then uh, just really about the fact of having a contract, the beginnings of getting the OPM, not even the hard part yet.
Yeah, you talked about trust though. So when you coming into folks that you may or may not know, take out family or friends, and you're talking about essentially strangers or business associates you're maybe encountering for like the first time or the beginning stages, what do you feel is I mean, I don't want to say easiest, but time usually is associated with trust, right? It usually takes time to build trust. And so when we're talking about contracts or business dealings, and I'm coming across someone that I might be meeting for the first time or relatively new, how is trust established to the highest level? Is it the contract that gives them the comfort to sit back and say, I'm gonna have this as a recourse in case you are untrustworthy? What is the I guess the cheat code to building that trust, other than being a genuine person up front on your intentions?
I like that he said cheat code. I like cheat codes. And yeah, I think that's a powerful question. And how I'm gonna answer that is very simple. It's the contract. If you're at the contract stage, you're past the trust stage. And the trust stage is, I tell people up front, if you have to ask someone for money, you're already putting that you've already putting yourself in a position where that isn't a relationship, because I want to see you doing something. I tell you that the psychology behind it is get out and do things, and then invite people to see what you do. Let them see that you're actually, hey, look, I'm in real estate. Here's what I'm doing. Here's a project I'm working on. Here's that core of what I'm doing. Here's how I'm doing it, and you see my work ethic, and you see how people, respond, how people are tied to you. People will give into your passion and your dreams, not what you do, but your passion and your dreams. And so when you come to that person that you're looking at OPM, have a plan, man. Don't
Yeah.
show up and let's. I'm gonna say me for a second. Oh, Chris, I, I got a deal I'm working on, and I need $50,000 to close this gap to pull it off, and and but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet and how it's gonna happen, and I'm not sure when the project's gonna be over with or what. Wait a minute, time out. When you figure it out, you come back, because I need to know, first of all, if I'm going to take money out of my account, I need to know what you're going to do with it, where it's going to be applied, and I need to see you doing something. And that contract Sharon talked about is a piece of it. You've also got to have something tied to, because I want to know if I don't get my money back.
Right.
Because again, the trust is only the first part of it. When you at that contract phase is where you start to say, here's that commitment, and we start talking about parameters. I already trust you. At that point, I already trust you. If I'm taking, that means I'm going to stop one of my deals and take cash out and give it to you. So I have to see the value in what you're doing, and I also want to know, is Derek going to do the right thing? So for me, it's not just about lending money. It's about also trying to figure out, what are you doing? Are we aligned? If you know me, and you know me, if you know me or mentor me and watch or a mentor or been around me, in I'm not going to put my money in anything that tears my community down. That's a plug to Juneteenth. I'm not going to put my money in anything that tears people down or tears a community down, because I'm a developer. I'm a community developer that wears a community hat first. So if you tell me that you're going to do something that goes against the fabric of building up communities, I'm gonna tell you, I may not be the investor for you. I may not be the financer or the money that you're looking for, because we don't align. And so that's just me. There's people out there that have OPM, and they may not have the same guidelines and requirements I have, but my main requirement is, do I want to do business with you first, and then second, are we aligned in the vision? And that's kind of what I'm working on now, is put together a platform, because I want to find mentees that want to do this business and do it in a way that builds communities, and say, look, here's an opportunity. Let's go get it. And so, in answer to your question, the key thing of it is you got to come with a full fledged plan. I mean, and don't just come with a plan in your head. Write it
Yeah.
down. Again, if you start any business, come with a business plan. Come with a plan. Here's what I'm buying. Here's how it looks. Here's where it is. Here's why I believe in it. And here's what I've already done to put stake in the game. It may not be in this project, but it may be in this. But I've done this. And then And I'll tell you in the contract phase, also, I require that you have an asset or something I can tie to. Because again, I'm being all honest. I want you to be successful. I want you to go out and change lives and be successful. But if you don't do what you say you're going to do, it's like anything else. I need to recover my asset because I need to be a blessing to somebody else. So Sharon talked about it earlier. That contract. The contract talks about not only what I'm giving you, but it talks about the return, and it talks about what you're going to do, what your project is, and the last thing it talks about what asset you're tying it to that has value, that's greater than the value that I'm giving. So I'll tell you one of the secrets. Drop a secret is that if you have an asset that's free and clear, or an asset that has low debt on it, that can be collateralized, that gives you an opportunity to use that asset as leverage. And if you don't know leverage is just basically when you are able to leverage an asset to create a lending opportunity off of it. So again, we talked about I have to trust you first. Then second, we have to come to terms of an agreement, which kind of says here's what's going to happen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'll tell you one of the most notable things. I'm gonna drop a quick story. I had a deal that I had done with my OPM, my lender, and um, it was a good deal. To me it was like a no brainer. But no brainers always come with consequences, and this is a learning lesson for someone. Everything you jump into that you think is a great investment, if you don't know the rules and don't do your homework, can end up being a tragedy. And I had a deal that I jumped on, and it was in the early beginnings, and it wasn't the deal that was bad. It was kind of the timing, because I had a lot of things going on, and when I started the project, it took a little longer for me to get started because I was doing so many other things, and then uh, couldn't find good people to work, and some other things happened, and my whole time kept getting longer. And the longer you're holding it, you're paying a payment. I mean, I OPM can be structured in different ways. We'll talk. I can talk later on about the structure of it, but at that time I was paying on a monthly basis. I'm giving a return on a monthly basis, and it would probably supposed to have been 2 months, turned out to be almost 6 months because of the timing. We had holidays, then you had cold weather starting at the wrong time, and then you had some shifts in the economy. And then on top of that, the work that needed to be done wasn't assessed properly. So instead of just having to do some cosmetic, I had to go in and do some deep dives into plumbing, electrical, foundation, and it went from a 2 month project to almost a 6 month project, and that's kind of long for a project. But due to the time in the holidays and some of the external factors, and the lack of knowledge, not having all the rules at the time, and not having a good mentor at the time, um, it, it happened. But here's the one thing I'll tell you: it didn't happen. I did not stop making the payments, and even though I lost money, I still made sure they made money. And the one thing that came out of that process, again, which I talked about this morning in my beginning messages, not when God brings you through something, you always learn. And the key thing is bringing you through. He's not giving up on you, but he's bringing you through something. At the end of that, the conversation wasn't, I was within my time frame of the contract, but the problem of it was, again, I had gotten to the point where it would have been easy for me to say, you know what, this ain't worth it. But I did not do that. I paid my payment, and I ended up turning around and having a conversation. And they said, you know what impressed me the most? You never gave up. You stuck it out. You got it done, and I made money. Now here's the funny thing: the same question I always ask on these calls? How do you feel? At that time, I felt really bad because I was like, I held your money too long, and then second, I really didn't make any money, and I was kind of distraught a little bit. But when I made my payments, they said, the funny thing about it is that's called character. You had character and integrity. You said what you want to do. You did it, and at the same time, You made sure that I was always taken care of. So guess what happened? I not only built trust, I built a lifelong partner, and never had a problem after that because I learned the rules and I knew I had to be better and be focused on what I was doing. But at the same time, because of my integrity and my character on that, I made a long life friend, and that not only built trust, it made me trustworthy. Now, trust is one thing we talked about, but trustworthy was the key thing. So that makes sense, D?
Absolutely. And he says it's a better compliment to be trusted than to be loved. So,
There you go.
definitely take you up on that. But yeah, appreciate that.
Sharon, you out there?
I'm with you.
So so trustworthy. So you understand that word trustworthy, right?
I do. And they almost always check your credit. So they know that they can confirm that you're trustworthy. You pay your bills, that you have a history.
Now I will say honestly. I've had OPMs, and multiple OPMs, but I've really only had one major one, and all the ones I ever had, Sharon. Again, and I'll talk more about where you find OPMs at in a few
Hmm.
minutes.
Hmm.
And I've never had my credit checked.
Wow.
Traditional financing, I had to jump through a lot of hoops. But when you start to get in the OPM, and let me stop for a second. That's a good point. So the types of OPM you have hard
True.
money,
Yep.
then you have private money, and then again the other side of the coin is traditional. So traditional, private money, and hard money. People are like, well, what's the difference? Well, traditional money is when you go to the bank. That's that financing out there. Then you have private money. Now, private money is not really hard money. It's more of the money that someone just has sitting around and they really just want to bless you. They're not going to charge you the astronomical rate. But let me stop and tell you this: private money is a little bit different because that means they're not taking a whole lot of risk. They're not going to take your risk level is very very low. The assets free and clear. They got everything they need there, and you are, I think, at a point where now you're not. They're not concerned about you paying them back at all. There's no fear there, and well, there's always a risk, but the risk is not as great. Now, hard money, I really don't have a relationship with you, and I'm going to charge you this rate because this is where it is, and you know, it's more of a transaction, and it, it just happens then. Private money, I might want to partner with you. We have a relationship, and I know that my money's is not at a greater risk. Hard money is going to be at a greater risk, and it's more structured, and it's going to be hardcore. Here it is. Here's a number. Here's what I need my money back, and you might not like those terms, but again, I've dealt with both, and I'm okay with both. Why? Because I understand the rules of where I'm going and how to utilize it. Because again, it's not about the money that you're getting; it's about the return and what you're trying to accomplish. Once you know, I always tell people, if your why is greater than your obstacle, your why is always going to win. So if you know going in what you're going to do with that money, and you have a plan, and you've done your research, you understand the rules, you understand what needs to happen, and you're willing to make that commitment, that money's fine. But just remember this, and this is the best nugget I can give you. You can't build an empire of high risk debt. You cannot build an empire of a high risk debt. You can carry the weight for a while, but after a while, you've got to get to a point where you can relinquish yourself and release some of that weight of the high risk debt. You cannot build carrying a 14% interest rate. And I want to break that down even more, but I won't do it on this call. You got to come to a training, and I'll tell you how OPM can be anywhere from 6% up to, I'm sorry, yeah, it can be anywhere from prime, below prime sometimes, to all the way up until like 14% and even 16. And I've seen some up as high as 19. I know you'll sit back and say, wow, it's not. But I promise you, I can show you how OPM can be structured in a way that you may think you're only paying 12%, but you're really paying an astronomical number. And that's just how it's structured. And that's where the real conversations come into, but just understand how it really works. So the key thing I think to take out of these questions this morning and this topic is, first of all, you've got to have a winning mindset. And then second, you really, really have to drive and understand psychology and be not only trusted, but also trustworthy. Because when you're trustworthy, that means that you can have conversations about how you want to structure that money. And if you walk in and you don't have an idea of what you want and what you can afford, then you're going to you're going to be on that high side and you won't even understand why you're there. It's because we didn't have a relationship, you didn't have a structure, and you didn't have a plan of why you need the money and how you're going to use it. So all those play a factor in how OPM works. Jamal, back to you. Anything you want to add to that? Any questions you got around OPM? Any nuggets you think I've dropped that kind of help you?
No, I practice the same thing when I give like friends or my family money. I always tell them this shit ain't free, man. Like I work hard for my money, so you need to be putting something back on top of it. Because really, you know, in life, banks, like you said, hard money, they're gonna charge a percentage, when they lend you money. So if I give you like $1,000 or more, and you just hand me back $1,000, well, I could have did something with that $1,000 over the time, you know, myself, and made a big return for myself rather than you just hand me back $1,000 4 months later, the same amount of money I just been, waiting to spend on my own. I always say, imagine if I took your kids for 4 months and then give them back. I tell my brother that all the time. I'm like, when you miss him, when you miss your son, and when you want it back faster, right? So, but really, yeah, I believe the OPM, it will give you an advantage. Like I said, I have not used OPM yet. Of course, I'm just always taking my my squares and pushing them off and making money. But there is a time that I feel like I do want to use OPM for something really, really major. And that trustworthiness that you spoke about, being trusted is one thing, or building trust is one, but being trustworthy says your character is A1, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. And you really got to be doing some shit. I hate to be cuss, I'm sorry, but you really got to be doing something, like you said, for somebody to trust you. Because who wants just to lend some money? You say, I promise I give you money back. That don't work.
And that's go
Nah.
back. That's why you got the contract. And I'm gonna say this too. I tell people if if you're not at that brick wall because of policies and procedures, and your traditional is not working, I'm gonna tell you one thing I say is if they're pulling it when if your credit is pulled, it does show your trustworthiness. But I want to put this out there because I want to this is a teaching moment, and I want to drop a nugget on you on this part is that don't let your credit define who you are. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm being honest. I think when you start looking at credit, man, it it's almost in some regards unfair. And I'm gonna tell you why I say that. And if you agree with me, chime in, hit me up, let me know, DM me, put it in the chat. I love to hear about it. But if I make a mistake one time, it affects me for 7 years. And I know you got people that can clean credit, and I'm all for that opportunity. But if you in 7 years, if I look back 7 years in my life, I have I am not the person I was 7 years ago. So how are you able to hold me for 7 years for one mistake that I made? So again, credit it's a way to give it a perception of who you are, but don't let your credit just define you. And again, when you start going to banks and traditional financing, that is a major factor. They're gonna look at your credit, they're gonna look at your debt to ratio, they're gonna look at all this stuff, and so you're gonna need that. Now OPM works a little bit different. They will put they can put your credit because I want to know who you are. I want to validate everything you're telling me. But when they do that, that becomes that conversation. Hey, look, I made some mistakes because of this. Be able to explain. Be confident about it. Because there's no one perfect. I promise you, the guy you're talking to ain't perfect. I made some mistakes. So we all had where we missed something and overlooked it and or didn't really understand something and it hit my credit. Wow. It shows up. And for all the people out there, I'll tell you, being vulnerable, being very vulnerable, lean in. Y'all lean in real close. This is for all my guys out there. One thing I didn't know coming in, I was paying at the time I had a son. I mean, my son's 20 now, and when I got in the game, I left corporate America and was raising my son. So I started relying on OPM, and Didn't realize at the time I was paying child support. And to all the fathers, happy Father's Day out there too. And being vulnerable, I didn't realize that child support showed up in your credit. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
So even though I'm doing the right thing, I was paying my child support, I was there, but that showed up on your credit. So when again, do not let your credit define you. It wasn't an issue I wasn't paying. It was an issue that it showed up as a debt to income ratio, which affected my lending. That's a whole nother conversation. That's going back to traditional. But again, all those play a factor, and you have to look at the bigger picture and make sure that you're able to explain why you are somewhere and how to get from there. Did I answer your question, D?
Yes, you did. Thank
Anything you
you.
want to add to that? Because OPM is powerful, man. Because again, you can make mountains when you got OPM because you can do more projects. You can make.
Definitely, man. I
Go
think
ahead.
really right now the biggest hurdle, at least for me, is plugging that private money side. I think I have some contacts on the hard money anyway, and that's really like the break the glass in case of emergency type option, and then you have the traditional, which is your banks, but just building some private money, relationships or people within that realm, I think is probably the biggest thing for
Well,
me, the next
I
step.
think you said something that I want to add to it. You said private OPM is for the emergency. I want
Well,
to
the
say
hard money.
your hard money, yeah, for
Yeah.
emergency. But I want to tell you, you should from day one, build those relationships, get around people who are OPM potential. Now, I'm actually doing a class and talking about OPM from beginning to end, really diving deep, not only about the trustworthy piece, the contract, but then also how to find OPM and where to look because it's all around you. You just got to know how to go get it. But the other part I want to add to what D was saying was um, when you start looking at OPM, start from day one while you're doing your traditional financing, while you're working your first project and you're getting that and you're using traditional financing, um, if that's your route. Now you can start with open if you got access to it, but if not, doing that traditional route that gives you that value of making sure that you're paying someone back. And if you're doing traditional, you're paying it back. You're trustworthy. You gotta have the credit. You gotta have everything. You have to check all those boxes. So now you check those boxes. Don't when I started using OPM, I hit the brick wall. It wasn't I couldn't check the boxes. I hit the brick wall of policy, so I had to do something different to get outside over the wall. So again, the key thing about it is that you're understanding how to check those boxes and move forward. And I think that's the big thing. But like Sharon said, building relationships is key. And I tell people start building and getting around people who have OPM because you learn so much about money and money management when you're around people that do OPM or you're in those rooms. I tell people too, again, when I look at how I got started, I didn't get started just buying houses. I got into because I want to change communities. But remember this, my whole platform is not about real estate. It's about building wealth. So if you want to build wealth, let's talk about it. Real estate is a component of wealth. It's not what I do. It's a component. I'm going to, if you're around me and you're in the mentorship circle, you're going to hear me talk more about finance. Am I not, Sharon? Do I not talk more about
Absolutely.
finance?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's the core. That's the core. That is the core. The biggest, the tallest buildings in any city is a bank. Now I'm gonna tell you, I've got a conversation I want to have with you soon about how to build banks, and it's a great conversation. It's a tool, it's an opportunity, but you learn on how to move forward faster, and you get to do some creative things when you're able to control the finances and be able to drive things in a different way. So it's always
Right.
a great opportunity. But I'm gonna tell you, OPM opens up the doors. This is a light conversation. The fireside chats are designed where you can fire off the questions, and we try and target it. And I try and tell people I have courses coming out. They're gonna dive a lot deeper and I really want you to understand at least the first four stages of OPM. But the real stage is not just about the OPM; it's making sure you have a structured plan and knowing how to structure that financing on the backside. Because when you start getting those terms are where the details. The devil's always in the details. What the terms look like. And the one thing that I tell that most people don't talk about Everybody gets excited about, oh, I want other people's money. I want OPM. That's gonna change my life. Well, what happens when you fail at OPM? What happens when that deal doesn't go right and you're not able to live up your obligation? Now, I've never experienced that, but I know people who have experienced that, and it's not always their fault. I know people in COVID. That was a global pandemic that got hit, and at the end of the day, they had to make payments and on something that they couldn't, and it just the deal kind of fell through across the board. Everything didn't line up, and all the external forces came against them, and it didn't work, and they got foreclosed on. Now, nobody want to talk about that piece of it. That's the that's a hard pill to swallow when you're working on something and then you get foreclosed on. You have to get foreclosed on because you couldn't live with the obligation. Now again, I just talked about credit. Don't let credit define you. Don't let an incident define you. And identify what went wrong, assess the situation, and make sure that you do one thing. The person that lends you their money, that other people's money, always take care of them. Always protect them. Always figure out how to keep them safe and at first, um, in a place where they're not losing. Because if they lose, you just cancel that opportunity as to have a relationship, be trustworthy, and have an OPM. So I hope that's a nugget for somebody because I know there's people that are probably going through where they got into OPM either too early or got into a situation and it cost them dearly. But the thing about it is if you are have integrity and you're doing what you say you're going to do, and that person lends you that money can see it, they're always willing to work with you and figure out a plan. Now, I'm not going to say every person out there that does OPM doesn't care what happened, don't want to see you successful because it's great to get that asset because then that just added more value than what you put in because again they're lending what you are asking for. The value of the asset that they're lending on is more than what you receive the money for. So therefore, they're on the upside. But that
That
doesn't mean they
that
want
is key. That
they
is
want
a
the
big
upside.
key that you just said, Chris,
Right.
because the building the relationship, I say that's super important because sometimes you think it's one thing and it's not as hard as maybe the contract says. So if I had a relationship with a hard money lender and it looked like my project was delayed. I had contractor issues. I called up my hard money lender. He did like me, and we had conversations before I got the loan from them. So fast forward like 4 months in, it was a 6 months contract. I said, looks like this project is going to go over by 2 weeks. I don't want to default on my loan. He said, no problem. You sent me pictures. We have looked at your project from start to finish. You're very close. I have no problem extending the contract for 2 months, which I didn't even need one, and I will delay the fee that is attached to that
Wow.
for after you sell the property because we already know that this deal is a good one and it's going to go through. It's just a little bit late. And I was so glad that I actually picked up the phone and had the conversation with the person instead of doing like a lot of people do. They duck and cover or they run away. They don't answer the phone when the person calls and says, where's my money? I thought it was going to be this and that and the other. But that speaks to integrity as well. So now I don't have to go through my third party to deal with this lender. He wants to deal with me directly. And I didn't ask for that. He saw the credibility, he saw my potential, and he wants to work with me for future projects.
And I'm gonna tell you that's important. I think it's right. I mean, you said that is a fact. That is a fact. Why? Because you show so much integrity on that. And again, I tell people all the time, a conversation can stop. Conversation can stop wars. People fight wars because they're at some point where they stop communicating. And that's a key thing. Even if you're in traditional financing, if you hit a stumble, if you hit something, pick that phone, have a conversation. You never know how that conversation could change the direction or create an option. Because I've seen it whereas, hey, look, I thought I needed 150, but
Hmm.
I ran into a bond and a snag with this, and you see what this is, and I can explain it. And hey, look, can I get Could I may need another $10,000 to finish this project up. Guess what happens? Hey, you know what? We'll add it to the loan. We'll keep the same terms, and we're good. Done. Now the project's done because they want success of that project. They didn't want to see it fail. They wanted to see it succeed, and that was off that relationship. So I think you actually hit that on the head, and hats off that you get a golden star this morning for that because I think that really helps explain it. Even in a better way from the standpoint of just the conversation and communication is a key thing. So D, I tell you, D, when you start looking at it holistically, because what I want in this call and these again when you start when I the trains that we're coming out with and I'm putting out, I don't want you just to be on the side of um of just being able to create a project. I want you to be able to eventually lend on a project because that where the true power comes in. When you, again, think big is about seeing where you are and understanding what you're doing. But dreaming big is when you start to see yourself doing bigger things. But being big is when you start to be that blessing. And I want to see you at a point to where now you're being successful and you're doing things, and now you're able to create that opportunity through a blessing for someone else. But just
Right.
remember, it's not going to be free. So
Absolutely.
I
And what do
don't
you
think.
feel is the best? Not to cut you off. I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, to become in that bank, right? Maybe I only got five, $10,000 to be that blessing to someone else, and be that private money lender to someone that's aspiring to start out and so forth, and might need to do some kind of crowdfunding. What do you feel is the best way to I guess structure the deal where and maybe it might be getting into too many details on this
Yeah.
call as far as the structures of deals. But yeah, that's what I was going to ask as far as the structure of the deal from a private money side. If you are the bank, right? We're talking about being the receiving side, but what about if you are the bank and you want to protect yourself to the best of your ability to avoid defaults and stuff like that? Because
I'm,
unfortunately,
I'm gonna throw the ball to Jamal in a second, but Jamal, before I throw those to you, he said, let me have that one. So I'll tell you this, I'm gonna say it all honestly. You can be a private lender with any amount of money. You can be $500 because it's not where you are. It's not
right,
it's not where you're going. It's where you are. And the thing about it is that is that you could be a private lender with $500 or $1,000, and that honestly is the same. Because if that's your last $1,000 and someone's asking you to entrust you trust someone to help build their dreams and they don't pay you back, it's the same way if you gave them $1 million.
right,
So the biggest thing of it is yes, you got to learn how to structure a deal, which I won't go into details on this call, but yes, structuring a deal is critical. Knowing how to put that contract together to say, here's what we're doing, here's the asset we're tying to, here's the terms on it, and here's a time frame, and here's what your repayment look at. Because some of the payment, some OPM may not. Well, the ones when you start doing private lending, you could do it in multiple ways. You can have a payment every single month. Oh, you can have a payment, a one lump sum payment at the end. It all depends on what type of project you bring to me and what it looks like and how we're going to structure the deal. If you want to win at the entire game, it's understanding the structure of the deal. And private lending is about how you structure the deal, how you put that deal together, and how it looks. So that's a little lengthy conversation. I can go more detail in it, but your structure is really in that contract, and that's where the meat and details come back. And again, you could private if I lent you $500, it's a contract.
right.
It's a contract. It's my money. It's a contract. So it's not about just shaking your hand. It's about being able to put together things in a way that really drives that trust and builds a trustworthy. Now I will say this, and I will be all transparent. I've had a private lender ask me, "Hey, look, so how can I write you a check and can I give you cash?" And we were talking upwards of $200,000. And I said, well, first, let me stop for a second. You never give money to me. You either give it to my attorney or you wire to an escrow account. The reason why is because I want to protect you. I want to make sure we have legalities in place that if something happens to me or something happens to this deal, your money has a trail, it's tracked, and then at the same time you can I'm making sure I protect you. And they were like, wow, you go that far? I said, yeah, I want to make sure that you're protected. And that is the one thing that again builds trustworthy. I'm gonna always put my private lender in a position to be protected. Why? Because it's valuable. They work hard for their money, and I want to build a relationship based on credibility, and the most important thing, trustworthy. So yes, I'm going to all limits to make sure that they're trusted, that their money is protected. And that's the same thing. Even if you were on that side and you were private lending $500, make sure that that person's money is protected. And I think that's what builds that credibility and creates that win. So guys, we're coming to almost an end. I'm gonna wrap up with that by just saying, you know, I hope you enjoyed the conversation around OPM. It's an opportunity and a light way to talk about OPM and what we're doing, but this is a critical step of growth. And once you understand the power of OPM and you're able to even play in the game of OPM, it will change your life. So if you have not followed me on Instagram at the Mr. Christopher Dennis, follow me and see what we're doing and tap in because I will have a special training coming out just around OPM. It won't be light. I'm gonna take the deep dive and we're gonna talk about all the stages. We're gonna talk about not only how the mindset piece of the psychology piece of it. We're gonna talk more about and dive really, really deep in that contract and that structure. And then more importantly on where to find OPM. And then making sure the last piece, which is the most critical piece we didn't talk about, just in highlights, not the fact that you got someone's money. What do you do when you get it? What needs to happen day one? And how do you make sure that you set yourself up in a way that I'm gonna drop a secret. Y'all leaning real close. If you do OPM the right way, the right way, you don't even you're not even using a dime of your money. You're even your paybacks. Let that sink in.
Wow.
I'm gonna stop right there for a second. That's like that automatic pause button. I'm gonna stop, take the class, know the rules. I want to share it with you because if you're around me 5 minutes, I'm gonna talk anyway. But again, I can show you how you structure that deal to where it doesn't cost you a dime. But the thing about it is, again, you're still protecting the person on the other end, and you have the right responsibility. You have the right responsibility to that contract and that person. Because again, I always look at what if it was me on the other side. How do I want someone to treat me? And that's even at my $500. If I let the $500, you don't pay me back my $500 because that may hit. And I'm gonna tell you, that's always a good test. I'll lend
Yep.
you a small amount of money and then try to figure out can I lend you bigger money. Why? Because the same way you treat that $500, the same way you can treat that $500,000. So again, it's always about knowing the rules and getting in the game. So guys, I'm gonna go around right quick. We'll close out. We got less than a minute. Tell me how you feeling, what you think of this conversation, and anything you want to say to people about OPM. Start with you, Sharon. Fire.
Definitely. You always light a fire under me, Chris. So, of course, I feel like sparked. I feel like, rocketing into the stratosphere and just like tear it up. But I'm also pausing because I want to learn how to structure it first. I want to go in prepared. I want to keep my reputation intact. I want to maintain my credibility because I don't want to fail. I want to set it up for success. So, I'm so ready to take this class that you keep talking about.
That's it. It's coming. It's coming. We're doing it right now. So, because I think it's important. But the reason why I'm trying to, we're building stuff out in stages because I don't want people just to jump on OPM and not even understand what traditional is.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, I'm pumping the brakes. I'm super excited, but
Yep.
I want to learn it first so that I don't make a mistake like you talked about, where you see people foreclosing or doing worse. Some people go to jail. Some people they
Yep.
never recover. Their lives never get better after they take a big hit. So I don't even want to know what that feels like. I want to hear me, other people can talk about it, but I don't want to know about that firsthand. I want to do it right the first time.
I'm always talking about knowing the rules and playing the game to win. So,
Yep.
D, what do you think about it? Give me some highlights on this morning. How you feel and
Yeah,
what's
feeling good. Feeling good. Like Sharon said, feeling invigorated, and as always. So it's a good way to start out the day, especially in the morning. So definitely taking this forward, it just opens my mind to think about it. When you think about OPM, you always think about maybe from the receiving end. This conversation kind of, opened my mind to think about it from the lending aspect as well. I know Jamal talked about lending to family and friends, but maybe how to better structure deals so that I can be more of a blessing to others, but in a responsible way. And so, looking forward to learning more about how to better structure deals in the future, just to put myself in a better position to not only maybe receive blessings from others, but also be a blessing to others as well in any which way I can.
Yep. Jamal, how you feeling?
Hey, you know me, Chris. I'm down with OPP all day, man.
He said OPP, not OPM. This guy, this guy.
Oh,
I'm gonna
all day. We've been naughty by nature since we was kids, man.
that's, that's all. Look, that's all. That's all I'm always out there. See, look, he dropping the A's out there now. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna close out with a nugget, guys. Every project that you see that's going on around the city, when you drive around any city, because I got people watching from some people just joined. I saw they're chiming in from another city. So any city you drive in and you look around, you see those cranes in the sky, you see buildings going up. They're using OPM in some way in a structured model. If you're raising capital, if you're putting deals together, when you do deal structuring, you're using OPM money. OPM. Is not always traditional. There's all this types of OPM out there. And when you start to see that, you really start to understand the power of OPM and that it's happening around you all the time. If you see a project going up and they had to raise capital that wasn't theirs, they just raised OPM. That could be traditional and non-traditional. Regardless, if you put in a deal together and it ain't your money, it's OPM. All the rules still apply. It
Right.
just depends on where you're getting it from and how you structure the deal. So I wanted to break that misnomer because everybody thinks it's a taboo thing about OPM and it's like some secret society. It's not. It's around you every day. And once you sit down and we go through it, I break down all the rules. I teach you the rules and I show you how it actually works and how to do deal structure so you can win across the board. I'm excited. Again, Fireside Chat. Hey, hopefully you enjoyed this morning. I'm always excited. But remember, I told you in the beginning, God blesses you because He's not taking. It's not not what's happening. He's always bringing you through. So I'm excited about what we're doing. We're going. Think big, dream big, be big. Chime in next week. Another great topic. I hope this helps. Y'all take care.
Salute.